Hello, welcome to the Morning Serve, brought to you by Emirates. I'm Nick McArdle. Todd Woodbridge is here. Todd, a bit of a wet start to the Australian Open.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing about it is that we've got an extra day anyway on the schedule. So first rounds have been played over day 1, day 2, day 3. So we can still fit that in. That's not going to be a problem. But, I mean, matches are going to finish. That's the beauty of having 3 roos here at Melbourne Park. But hopefully it clears up a little bit and we can get some play because huge crowds. Absolutely massive crowds to start the tournament.
Indeed. All right, let's have a look at what is coming up on today's edition of the Morning Serve. Nick Kyrgios, his return, a lot to talk about there. Jannik Sinner, the doping scandal, there's a bit going on there, a bit to come as well. Can the Aussie men make a big run here in Melbourne in 2025, and where to for the Australian women? Well, let's start off with Nick Kyrgios, returning after a couple of years out of the game. What's the expectation? How good can he be here?
Well, we have to be realistic. He hasn't played for nearly 2 years. He's played a match up in Brisbane where he played quite well, actually. The quality was there, losing to Pericard in that opening match. But within one match, there are injury issues. And so that makes it really difficult to see him going very deep here. And I really think it's the reality that everybody out there has to understand is that this is a comeback. It is not coming back to win the Australian Open. It is an opportunity to get the foot back in the door and see really where he's at. He has got a good draw. That's one good thing. But how deep? Well, I'm not so sure.
And it's a comeback from wrist surgery as well. And that's one of the issues. It's not an easy thing to come back from.
No, well, it's not the wrist at the moment that's bothering him. No, it's an abdominal strain. So if it's not a knee, shoulder or whatever, there's always something with him. And that's going to happen when you don't play matches. You've got to get match fit no matter how hard you train. As you get older, those first matches back really put a lot of stress and pressure on you. So that's what he felt up in Brisbane. And now, well, we'll see how he goes.
And what about his opponent in the first round, Jacob Fearnley, the young Scotsman? Already being compared to Andy Murray. No pressure there.
No.
What do we know about him?
Look, a really solid player, 22, 23 years of age. He's on the rise. Now, I've watched a bit of him play. He's a very solid player, but when the draw came out, Nick couldn't have dreamt of a better draw. So what's happened now, you flip it a little bit, this is a match he should win. So there's an extra pressure on him, and then we'll see how he handles that. I think he probably would have been hoping for something, maybe a 50-50 type match where there wasn't as much stress and pressure. When he walks out against Fearnley now, you know, he should win this one because Fearnley's not been in this situation before. This is a massive court with a crowd that's going to go nuts. It's something that he will never have experienced, and how he handles it is a lot to do with how Nick goes, to be honest with you, because I don't think he will, he won't know what he's up for. It's got not even the opponent on the other side of the net. It's the crowd in the stadium that's going to be the hard. It's going to be playing 15,001.
Yeah, there's something special every time Nick Kyrgios steps onto the court here at the Australian Open. So that's something to look forward to. Jannik Sinner, what an outstanding 2024, the defending champion here. But he's got the sideshow happening as well, hasn't he, with the doping scandal. Remarkably, he just seems to just motor on through. Very strong mentally.
Yeah, and you've got to be strong mentally anyway to get to #1 in the world and win major championships. But it's obviously now a date's been set for a hearing in April. By WADA. I mean, he passed all of the tennis codes. And the interesting thing for me is that I think this situation, both with Jannik Sinner and Iga Swiatek, there is a book, and this has gone by the book with every single piece of that puzzle that they have to go through, from being testing positive to doing tests, to going through finding out how they got it in their system, going through all the protocols. So I think for tennis, it just shows how deep our sport goes into making sure that we are okay. You know, these players get tested at that level almost every 2 weeks. I think the other thing for me is that because both cases were handled quickly, they were able to find out what was in their system, deliver that, and go through the process. That's actually good for our sport. We've had cases that have taken ages and too long, and I think this puts the pressure on everybody else in terms of IATA and the World Doping Organization to be consistent with how they go through it. So out of what's a negative in a way, I think we can see some positives for tennis.
The fact is, though, that WADA is appealing. That appeal will be heard at Court of Arbitration for Sport in April. So there's still this possibility of perhaps a 12-month ban hanging over it.
And I think that's quite disappointing. It's the big dogs coming in saying, well, we want to have total control. It's been through a process and then making it go through another process again, which I find mind-boggling, to be honest with you. But, you know, if they get their way, he will probably get a short ban between 2 to 6 months. So that's not great for the sport, not great for him. But we'll see what comes of it.
You seem quite at ease with tennis's processes. Any lessons out of this?
Well, the lessons are you've got to be incredibly careful as the athlete. It is so easy for something to get into your system, no matter how hard you try. And I think that's what these things have proved. You know, Igor's was proven very quickly that there was some contamination in a vitamin tablet that absolutely was not supposed to be contaminated from the process. It was a substance and a tablet that they said would be fine. You just do not know. And it won't be the last time in our sport or any sport that somebody inadvertently gets caught, and there'll be others also that are trying to beat the system. That's the way human nature is.
Well, let's have a look at the Emirates flight plan. This is what's in store, and what catches your eye there?
Look, for me, it's Carlos Alcaraz and Shevchenko. We saw Shevchenko playing in the United Cup. Good, solid play. I think it's a good start for Alcaraz here at the Open, and he's trying to win all 4 majors. This is the one he hasn't won. This is the one he actually hasn't played his very best tennis at. Last year, Juan Carlos Ferrero wasn't at the tournament, and he really struggled without that coach here in the box. It was evident he needed that direction from him. He is back. They've been settling in for a while here now. They've been playing a bit of golf. I think this is his chance to win the tournament. I think there's pressure on Sinner. There's always the talk of Novak because he's owned the tournament, and we'll see how he goes. He's been a little more up and down over the last 6 months than Sinner, but just remember what he did in the middle of the year with winning the French, winning Wimbledon, and then runner-up at the Olympics in that short space of time. That was draining. I think he starts now fresh, ready, and this could be one of those tournaments where we see something quite unique happen in our sport from somebody so young.
As you say, no one's talking about him. Everyone's talking about Jannik Sinner, and that's probably just the way he likes it. All right, let's talk about the Aussie men, and, well, 3 seeded this year. It's been a long, long time since that's happened. Yeah,
I mean, we've got 10 in the top 100 at the moment, I think it is, and that's extraordinary. You know, for they're in, they're out, but you know, Jordan Thompson's playing great tennis. We're led by Alex de Minaur. You've got Poprin, who's had a sensational year. You've got Vukic, you've got Walton. All of them have opportunities to win matches here. And, you know, I think what it shows is that you get somebody with great work ethic, great culture, great determination like Alex de Minaur, and the others start to act and behave the same and follow suit. He's been absolutely sensational for us, and he's dragging the rest of them along. Drag is not the right word. They're coming along on his coattails, and that is what every sport needs, and, you know, we're going great guns.
Let's tiptoe through some of those names, and you mentioned Alex de Minaur, and there is so much expectation now, world number 8.
Yep.
And quarterfinals at everywhere except the Australian Open last year. Is this his year to make a quarterfinal, perhaps even go further?
Well, it's certainly. I mean, now that he's seated there, he gets a better draw all the way along. He's got a tough opener, in fact, against Van der Zandschulp, but, you know, I think he gets through that. Yes, he can. He really believes he can. You know, Wimbledon last year was that prime example where Novak was not playing his best tennis, and they were going to go into that quarterfinal head-to-head, and I think he had a big chance. He may not have won, but I think he had a big chance there, and that's where he's at now with his tennis. He's playing the best tennis of his life. There are others coming off their levels, and there are others that obviously that are peaking like Sinner, but yes, he can go deeper. He'll need a bit of luck. His quarter is actually quite tough, but if he gets through that or gets to there, you just never know in the men's game because of the best of 5 sets and what happens along the way to getting there.
Quick thought on a couple of these names. Jordan Thompson, never been past the second round here.
It's going to be tough. He's come in with a little bit of an injury. He's got an issue with his foot at the moment. He played well in Brisbane, but then had to pull out because of that. He was trying to nurse it to get here. It's about time for Tomo. I think Tomo comes in with a lot of expectation and pressures, and that's what happens when you come into your home tournament. You need almost to have a good result early, and then those shackles come off, and it's going longer and longer and getting harder and harder for him. But again, best tennis of his life, singles and doubles court, by the way.
Thanasi Kokkinakis, at his best, brilliant, and can probably beat anyone in the world, but his body continues to let him down, and again, it's the shoulder.
Yeah, look, it's always tough. I mean, scheduling is a really interesting thing with him. He has to think hard about what he's going to do to get the best tennis career out of himself. The back end of the year, he's gone off and played challenges, and then he went and played exhibition matches that he didn't need to do. Yes, the money's great. We all love putting that in our pocket. It's exactly what he did, but that schedule's hurt to start the year. He needed to get some really big work in, maybe get to Brisbane, play that. He pulled out of Brisbane. He always plays well in Adelaide. That's the hometown, and he loves it there. But the problem is, when you go that hard, that early, it wears you out for here. Now, that's something that Alex de Minaur has done on a number of occasions over the past 5 years. He's learnt to change that schedule. Now he has the week off prior, and that has allowed him this past 12 months to go deep in all the majors, right? Yep. That is something that Thanasi needs to think about. I'm hoping that what happened in Adelaide's given him enough time, though, to be able to get started here, because he's coming in with confidence, good form. But yeah, you've got to think about that for next year, because otherwise time's running out.
Alexei Popyrin, just watching him last year, it's almost like he's realised that he's actually very good at playing tennis. Like there's this realisation, and he now has some self-confidence.
Yeah, and that comes too with winning a lot of matches. Alexei, obviously, winning a Masters series last year is a sensational result. His ranking's in the right place. What's happened? So he's come along with Alex de Minaur, but both very different styles, and so it's taken Alexei Popyrin a lot longer to get going. He's much taller, he's got more weapons, big serve, big forehand, doesn't move as well as what the Demon does. So he's really got to find that way to fall into his game, and that's finally happening. He's now understanding what is the right way to play for him. He was getting lost quite a lot on occasions in matches and in wrong court positions. He's now worked out that properly, and that was always to be expected when you've got a different style of body and game style to what the Demon had. So it's just a slower evolution, but one that he's been patient with, and he deserves every bit of success.
So out of that group, you think back last year, and it's de Minaur who's made the big leaps.
Yeah.
You know, where to perhaps he should be now. Is Alexei Popyrin, is he the guy over the next 12 months who can make similar inroads?
I think Alexei's another 2 years, 2 and 3 years, to keep building on that. He's had ups and downs, right? If you think about the Demon, he's incrementally just kept going forward. He hasn't had the dips, and that's by virtue, again, of his game style, his movement, his physique, all of those things. I think Alexei's still that work in progress, and he's going to have these big weeks, and then he's got to find ways to keep them together. So again, scheduling becomes really important for him throughout the year to peak at the right time. And of course, where do you want to peak? At the majors.
Well, let's hope he has a couple of big weeks coming up here. Just quickly on the women's side of things, you know, we see some young players coming through.
Yeah.
But not capturing the imagination quite like the men are at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you talk about young players, think about Australia at the moment. We've got the #1 junior in the world, and Emerson Jones, and Maya Joint, also teenager coming along playing brilliant tennis. They've got tough draws here at the Open, but we've actually got a couple now that are starting to knock on the door of what exactly the men have been doing over the last few years. Now, we lost Sam Stosur a couple of years ago. Ash Barty's left. We had that top echelon, and it takes, once you lose somebody like that, you then have to go through that cycle of building again. So, you know, tennis in Australia for the women is just starting that cycle, which is very good. But in the top of the game, I think it's kind of wide open, really. Although when you look at Sabalenka and how well she plays here, she's building a bit of an aura of Djokovic at the Australian Open. But I got to watch, you know, courtside, close up, Coco Gauff. Her improvement from the US Open to here is astronomical. I find it amazing that she was in golfing terms, she had the yips, and then now she's finding a way to absolutely be, I think, almost the best player in the world right now. I think she's going to have a great Open, and I go out on a limb. It's not a big limb, but you know, she's going to win a lot of majors. Yeah, a lot, because she's just got this. Any other player might have crumbled with what she'd gone through.
She looked so good at the United Cup, didn't she?
Yep.
Todd, looking forward to speaking to you at times over the next couple of weeks.
It's going to be busy.
It's going to be a huge 2 weeks here at the Australian Open. Thanks for joining us on the first edition of the Morning Serve.
Wide World of Sports on YouTube is your home of the tennis this summer.
With highlights of the best matches of the summer of tennis, the on-court interviews, and every day with the Morning Serve, you'll be ahead of the game.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this summer.